Right guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. If you enjoyed today's video, please show your support by hitting that like button and don't forget to tune in to the PlayStation podcast every Sunday at 7 PM UK time. So for a while now, we've been hearing rumours about a God of War game being developed. Some kind of spin-off God of War game that's said to take the series back to its roots, back to ancient Greece. But this just isn't another brutal action game like the ones we're used to seeing. According to multiple sources, this new game is taking on a completely different style. It's said to be a 2.5D Metroidvania game. Now, if you're unfamiliar with that term, think of games like Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown from last year. It's a kind of side-scrolling experience with a bit more depth, where exploration and backtracking are key elements in the game, and you gain new powers that let you unlock previously inaccessible areas. Classic Metroidvania design. It's a much smaller scale adventure compared to the massive open-ended experiences of God of War 2018 or God of War Ragnarok, but it's still rooted in the same universe. Despite all of the rumors and insider whispers, we didn't hear a word about this project during this year's usual summer gaming announcement season, which takes place during the old E3 showcases time period. That silence had many fans wondering if the game was real or happening at all, but according to well-known industry insider Jeff Grubb, the game definitely exists. He recently shared on his podcast, Last of the Nintendogs, that the project is still in development, but it's being pushed back. Internally, the release window has reportedly changed to 2026. That means we could still be between 12 to about 18 months away from that game actually coming out, if it is a 2026 release. As for why it's taking longer, reports suggest that the scope of the game has now grown since it was first planned. Initially, it might have relied mostly on some kind of text-based storytelling, but it's now been updated to include full voice acting, an upgrade that usually requires more time and resource. This change hints that the team behind it wants to deliver a more polished and immersive gaming experience, even if the game is more compact than the mainline titles. This new project is not being developed though by Santa Monica Studio, the team that created the modern God of War games. However, they're expected to be involved in the development in some way, shape or form. Rumors point to a studio called Mega Cat Studios, known for their pixel art style games like Five Nights at Freddy's, Into the Pit, as a potential lead developer, whilst they lean on Santa Monica Studio for support and guidance. While that might sound like a bit of a surprise at first, it could make sense given the stylized direction and Metroidvania format. So don't expect to see anything official about this game until sometime next year, especially if it's targeting a 2026 release. But if the rumors hold true, God of War fans will have something fresh and nostalgic to look forward to while waiting for the next big installment of the series. How are you feeling about a Metroidvania style God of War game? It's certainly going to be different, right? I mean, it's something different to look forward to in 2026 from a God of War perspective before we get the next main God of War game in their new setting and new location for some time around 2027 or 2028. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, guys, and let's move on and talk about Ghosts of Yotei. While there's still a lot we don't know about this game, a recent blog post from the studio has given us a small but intriguing peek into one of the game's mechanics, and that is foraging. During a research trip to Japan, Sucker Punch's creative team visited the Yotei region to better understand the culture and the history that would inspire their next game. The studio spent time with Yukiko Kazawa, who is a cultural advisor in that area. That person introduced them to the traditional practicing of foraging, which is the art of gathering edible plants and herbs from nature. This wasn't just a quick tutorial. The team actually hiked up the mountain, explored the wilderness, and got their hands dirty digging up real fruit, vegetables, and edibles. According to Nate Fox, the game's director, the experience was so impactful that the team decided right there and then to include foraging within the game. Now, this might seem like a small thing on the surface, but it actually opens a door to some interesting and deeper gameplay mechanics. Foraging could mean a new style of crafting system is in the works, where players collect resources to create items, tools, or maybe even special upgrades. Or it might be more of a side activity meant to immerse players in the world and culture that the team is working so hard to represent authentically. What's clear is that Ghosts of Yotei is aiming to deliver a more interactive and grounded open world than what we saw in Ghosts of Tsushima. That game already had a deep and atmospheric world, so adding layers like resource gathering could take things even further in terms of immersion. We're expecting to learn more very soon about Ghosts of Yotei because it's getting its own dedicated state of play showcase next month. That'll likely be the moment when we get our first proper look at the gameplay and how foraging fits into the larger experience within that world. I mean, it sounds like it could be a real interesting game mechanic, but to go one up on Ghost of Tsushima, oh my, that's going to be phenomenal if they can deliver that. What do you think, guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's move on. Now mark this date in your calendar, June 26, because Capcom has officially announced its next Capcom Spotlight Showcase, and it airs on June the 26th. The broadcast officially starts at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern and 11 p.m. in the UK. And you'll be able to watch that broadcast live here on the channel as we look forward to what Capcom has to show us. The show is expected to last about 40 minutes, and Capcom promises it'll be packed with fresh updates and interviews with the developers behind some of the most anticipated titles. So what can we actually expect from this showcase, this 40-minute showcase by Capcom? Some of the headliners include Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, Monster Hunter Wilds, and Street Fighter 6 at the very least. And they're not just quick mentions either. Capcom says it will be diving deep into each game, showing new footage, new development insights, and perhaps even some surprises. Now, during this year's Summer Game Fest, a few lucky outlets actually got a sneak peek at both Resident Evil and Pragmata. While the Requiem demo was only a hands-off demo, the feedback so far has been pretty impressive. Early impressions suggest that the game is already going to be a strong new entry in the long-running survival horror franchise. It's officially scheduled to release on February the 27th, 2026 for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. As for Pragmata, the demo shown was short, but it left a solid impression. It had a polished look and feel, and though some parts of the gameplay concept remain a bit mysterious, there's cautious optimism thanks to Capcom's consistent track record in recent years. I mean, the studio's been on a roll with recent releases, so there's good reason to believe that they'll deliver something meaningful too here. And then there's Street Fighter 6, which has already made an impact this year, especially with its release on the Nintendo Switch 2, which happened on June the 5th, right alongside the console's launch. And what's notable is that the version came packed with the first 2 years worth of DLC content, and that gave it a huge boost in sales on the Nintendo Switch 2. In fact, the game, Street Fighter 6, is now Capcom's second best-selling game in the franchise's history. All in all, the Capcom Spotlight is looking like a must-watch event, even if you're remotely interested in their upcoming lineup. Whether you're a fan of fighting games, or a fan of Monster Hunter Wilds, or just someone who enjoys high-quality single-player experiences, there should be something there for everyone. So let's mark that into the diary. Live stream for Thursday the 26th of June. We'll go live around 30 minutes or so before the show kicks off. So let's move on. I briefly touched on the Nintendo Switch 2 sales of Street Fighter 6. Now, an interesting report coming out about third-party sales on Nintendo Switch 2. On the hardware side, Nintendo's newest console is off to an incredible start. In the first few days alone, it sold 3.5 million units worldwide, making it Nintendo's fastest-selling console ever. In Japan, it sold just shy of 1 million units in the first 4 days, and in the US, it's even outperformed the PlayStation 4's record-setting launch, which says a lot about the Switch 2. But while the hardware is breaking records, third-party games are facing an uphill battle, at least for now. According to a report from the Game Business, most third-party publishers are seeing disappointing sales numbers for their games on Switch 2. In fact, one unnamed publisher went as far as saying their launch figures were below our lowest estimates, even though the console itself is selling extremely well. So what's actually causing this problem? There are a few key factors here at play. First off, first-party Nintendo games are dominating sales. In the US, around 62% of physical games sold during launch week were from Nintendo itself. And in the UK, those numbers were even higher. 86% of games sold were first-party titles, especially with the popular Mario Kart World Bundle boosting sales. Secondly, the backwards compatibility feature on the Nintendo Switch 2 means players can already access and replay a bunch of improved titles from the original Switch. In fact, 12 major first-party games were updated with enhancements for Switch 2 at launch, making it easy for early adopters to stick with familiar games before exploring new ones. Then there's the issue of third-party games mostly being port titles that have already been released on other consoles before coming to the Switch 2. So for players who really wanted to play those games originally, they may have already done so on the PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. And lastly, let's not forget the media coverage. There were fewer reviews and less media attention given to many of the third-party games during launch, which can affect how well those titles perform in their first critical week. Actually, there's another point to mention here as well, because there is still some resistance to the new game keycard format, which is how many physical Switch 2 games are now being distributed on the platform. Some gamers are not fully sold on the new approach just yet, which could be also impacting the physical game sales. Despite all this, there is a silver lining. One third-party game did break through the noise, and that is Cyberpunk 2077. It became the best-selling third-party title on Switch 2 in both the US and UK during the launch week. That shows there's still potential for third-party success. It just might take some more time and more targeted releases moving forward. Looking ahead, the big question is whether third-party developers will see better results once the launch window hype dies down, especially when newer titles release simultaneously across all platforms, including the Switch 2. What do you think, guys? Will third-party sales pick up on the Switch 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments about the content discussed today, and I'll catch you on the next video.